Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Brown. You may be seated.
Confirmation of minutes.
Honorable members, I would have circulated minutes for various meetings held during 2025 with your dispatched packages. I now open the floor for any amendments prior to the motion for confirmation. I draw your attention to minutes for the sitting of the National Assembly, 2nd May 2025. Are there any amendments? Any amendments for the 15th of May 2025? Amendments for the 22nd of May 2025? Amendments for the 31st of July 2025? Amendments for the 10th of October 2025? Amendments for the 31st of October 2025? If there are no amendments, I now open for the motion.
Madam Speaker, I second the motion.
No, you move. Needs to be moved.
May it please you, Madam Speaker. With no proposed amendments, I beg to move the confirmation of the minutes for the sittings held on the 2nd day of May 2025, 15th day of May 2025, 22nd day of May 2025, 31st day of July 2025, 10th day of October 2025, and 31st day of October 2025.
I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Christopher.
I now second that motion, Madam Speaker.
The question is that the minutes for the sittings held on the 2nd of May 2025, the 15th of May 2025, the 22nd of May 2025, the 31st of July 2025, the 10th of October 2025, and the 31st of October 2025 be now confirmed as circulated. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The minutes have been confirmed forthwith.
Messages from the Governor General.
There are no messages.
Announcements by the Speaker.
Briefly. Honourable members, viewing and listening audience, good morning again, and welcome to the first sitting of this Honourable House for the year 2026. I trust that everyone had a joyous Christmas and Carnival season. As we move now to the formalities, my office is in receipt of notices of absence from the Honourable Members for St. Christopher 3, the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 5, and the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 6, as well as the Honourable Member for Nevis 9. Those are the formal notices for today. Next item.
Presentation of papers and of reports from committees.
Madam Speaker, with your leave,
I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 8.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With your leave, I lay before this Honourable House Financial Services Regulatory Commission, St. Christopher Branch, financial statements, December 31st, 2024, expressed in Eastern Caribbean dollars. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Recognize the Honourable Senator, Dr. Clark.
Madam Speaker, with your leave, I lay before this Honourable House the financial statements for the St. Christopher Nevis Solid Waste Management Corporation for December 31st, 2021, December 31, 2022, and December 31, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognize the Honourable Attorney General.
May it please you, Madam Speaker, with your leave, I wish to lay before this Honourable House the St. Christopher Air and Seaports Authority Management Accounts, December 2025, the St. Christopher Air and Seaports Authority financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2024, and the St. Christopher Tourism Authority financial statements for December 31st, 2023.
Thank you, Honourable. Those are all the papers being laid. Have we concluded? Very well. Next item.
Petitions, government notices, unofficial notices, questions, requests for leave to move the adjournment of the National Assembly on matters of urgent public importance, statements by ministers.
I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 8.
Madam Speaker, with your leave, I rise to make a few statements with respect to the ministries that I lead as Prime Minister. First of all, Madam Speaker, I want to really say that people look really well adorned this morning in their African garment. I see even the opposite side, barring one, is not adorned. Hopefully, member from number 7, I can send you to get measure up and get you an African adornment. Huh? You're my political opponent, not my enemy. Don't get there. They'll get there. You're my opponent, not my enemy. You're still a Kittian and I respect you. I'm your Prime Minister, so I can do that. All right? So, Madam Speaker, the reason why I want to touch that, very recently I saw some information or a messaging where I was being criticized, or we were being criticized for wearing African outfits. And I said, I cannot be hearing right or seeing right. I expected such criticism from quarters that are not familiar with our people and our history. And so, Madam Speaker, those statements are extremely disappointing to have come from one within our chambers. The statements are not only disappointing, they are extremely dangerous as well, Madam Speaker, especially reflecting on the United Nations position that people of African descent are disproportionately discriminated against in this world. And as a result, there was a decade that was dedicated to people of African descent, and there is a second decade because it is thought that, and the evidence shows, that people of African descent still continue to suffer disproportionately because of our origin, Madam Speaker. And so when we wear these type of garments and clothing, it is really a statement to say to the world that we are proud of who we are, and we are here to say to the world that we will not accept being discriminated against, maligned, or marginalized because of our African origin. Madam Speaker, whether you believe in God as I do, even those who may not believe in God, both accounts of the origin of man dictates that life started in Africa, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as life started in Africa, people then migrated throughout the rest of the world. And we know that every human being who lives on this earth today comes from Africa. And so all of us should be extremely proud of that, Madam Speaker. And I am extremely proud. I want to say that by 2050, 1 in every 4 human beings would be of African origin, direct African origin. And by 2100, 1 in every 3 persons on earth would be of African origin, Madam Speaker. And therefore, it goes without saying that we are all proud to be of African descent. And those who has criticized me because of me wearing my African printed garments, Madam Speaker, I just wish that they would become educated and withdraw from public those very not only disappointing statements, but dangerous statements, because they are a shot at who we are as a people. And so, Madam Speaker, I want to wish you Black History Month, a pleasant Black History Month, and to all of us here, and to the nation, the region, and the world, a pleasant Black History Month. And my printed garments are a reflection of such, Madam Speaker. And I see yours, I see the clerk, the deputy clerk, 75% of those on the opposition side, and I think we are 100% on the government side, Madam Speaker. I see also the translators, Madam Speaker, are well adorned, and I'm sure, and the stenographer as well, and I'm sure if the police officers had a choice, they would be dressed in their African garments. So we are proud, and nothing to be ashamed of. I have said that at the United Nations, and I will say it again when we host the 50th regular meeting of Commonwealth right here in St. Kitts and Nevis, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, moving on, I want to just touch quickly on a critical matter, and then I'll come to some excellent news. All of this is good news, Madam Speaker. All of this is good news. They're trying, imagine you have a country where tourism is expanding. And we also recognize that our country, because of the hard work of our people, has become so much more peaceful. Children are in school, healthcare is improving, and yet there are those who are dedicated to spreading doom and gloom about our country. But I say to all of us that while we exercise our democratic rights, let us also include in that the concept or the idea or the founding principle, or a founding principle that is our motto, a founding principle of our democracy that says, let us put country above self. Madam Speaker, I just want to update quickly on a number of things with respect to healthcare. I want to provide an update. So first and foremost, I am pleased to report that for the year 2026, St. Kitts and Nevis has recorded 0 maternal deaths. What does that mean? Not one pregnant woman lost her life as a result of being pregnant. 0 maternal deaths. Madam Speaker, I want to thank all the gynecologists, the obstetricians as well. I want to thank all of the nurses, all of the healthcare workers who would have done so much, the pediatricians and so forth, because they have to take care of the baby in the early stages. But generally, this is about the mothers. And to have recorded 0 maternal deaths is an excellent testimony of the hard work and dedication of our healthcare workers, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, they want to spread all type of doom and gloom. But imagine in St. Kitts and Nevis, you had hundreds of births and not one woman succumbed as a result of being pregnant. That is proud. That is something to be proud of. So I want to thank all of our healthcare workers for their tremendous work, both in St. Kitts and in Nevis, because this is a federation achievement and this is significant. Madam Speaker, this is a profound milestone. Maternal mortality is one of the clearest indicators of the strength of a healthcare system, because pregnant women are, of course, very vulnerable. And if you have a healthcare system that can ensure that none of them would die, it means, therefore, that your healthcare system is strong. Perfect? No. But strong? Of course. And so to achieve zero in 2026 reflects the dedication of our obstetric teams, nurses, midwives, and primary care providers, and the effectiveness of our public health interventions. It signals that mothers in our federation are receiving safer, more responsive care. And as you know, Madam Speaker, I have started a high-risk pregnancy fund in my office, so that there's no bureaucracy when a woman needs care as a result of having a high-risk pregnancy. Of course, that is defined by their doctors. And once their doctors would have defined their pregnancy at high risk, they can access that fund if they so need, so that they can have a good outcome for themselves and for the unborn. Madam Speaker, policies like this result in safer pregnancies. Why is this so important? Because those normally who suffer or succumb are those who have less access to resources. So when you have a healthcare system who ensures that all pregnant women would have access to healthcare, that says that your healthcare system, though not perfect, is strong and robust, Madam Speaker. I am very, very proud of the achievement of the health sector with respect to that, and that says that our women's health here in St. Kitts and Nevis is critically important. All of our people's health, but I'm speaking specifically on this one. Madam Speaker, in addition, overall mortality trends are moving in the right direction. We have seen a drop-off, Madam Speaker, of the post-COVID increase in mortality, which means increase in deaths. It's now coming down significantly, Madam Speaker. Deaths are down, and we continue to intensify our work in prevention, early detection, and chronic disease management to sustain this progress. Good news, Madam Speaker. Less people are dying each year. And I will take this opportunity to tell our people, let us all commit to living healthy. I myself, I live fairly healthy, but now and then I might go off the tracks. I ain't perfect. So all of us need to, So Madam Speaker, I recommend more water instead of juices and refined sugary drinks. I recommend more water. I'll also recommend for us more fruits and vegetables. And if you have a condition, your doctor, of course, can indicate to you how to do it. We should cut down on our salt as well. And we should get more exercise. I mean, there are a lot of other things, stress management, more sleep. But let us start small, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this January, the cabinet were committing themselves to exercise and a healthy pathway. And I said, part of my advice was, start small. Yes. Even if you start with 10 minutes a day, but you are consistent with that 10 minutes, it increases over time. It's better than starting out with a full hour and a half or hour, and then you only keep up that for 2 months. And then after that, you're going back to where you were. So 10 minutes a day. Each of us can dedicate 10 minutes a day. You just walk down the road and walk back. We don't have snow on the streets in St. Kitts. You ain't got to put on no fancy clothes, Madam Speaker. A little walk down the road and walk back. Cut the sugar, so you save some money. Cut the rice, you save some money. And so, Madam Speaker, I really want us to commit ourselves to simple changes, but these changes are profound. They can help. If you drop your salt, decrease your blood pressure. If you drop your sugar, decrease your blood sugar. And decrease your weight, as a matter of fact. And in addition, a little exercise can help. So don't start big and don't compare yourself to anybody. Everybody on their own journey. If you're doing it for 20 years, well, you run from here to here, that's you. But I'm just starting, I'm going to walk from here to here, and I'm satisfied with my 5 to 10 minutes walk. Don't compare yourself to nobody. And when you go gym, don't let anybody show off in you. You're doing your own thing, I'm doing my own thing. You're satisfied, I'm satisfied too. But I'm doing me 2 minutes. If it's only that, when 2 minutes I could do. That is what I'm going to do. And if I could only lift up 10 pounds, let me lift up my 10 pounds. You lift up your 200. That's up to you. And nothing wrong if you could lift 200, I'm happy for you, but leave me with me 10. Simply saying, don't compare yourself to others. Do what you can do, and little One full basket. Consistency is important. And so I want to encourage all of us. We can start small, but be consistent with the small things, and small things become big things over time, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, so I'm proud of that. Our Children's Medical Fund continue to provide life-changing support to families whose children require specialized medical care overseas. Through this initiative, young lives are being saved and families are being supported during some of their most challenging moments. This fund stands as a testament to our belief that every child matters and that no family should face medical hardship alone, especially when the child becomes sick. Madam Speaker, this has basically eradicated sponsorship for children. One of the things that I hated, Madam Speaker, is to see mothers walking around with a sponsor sheet because the child has a life-threatening illness. Madam Speaker, we had $4.2 billion, and mothers were still walking around with sponsor sheets. Children were dying as a result. And the reason why I put this in my office is that I don't want any bureaucracy. All I need is a letter from the doctor to say, child so-and-so needs life-saving medical intervention overseas. It can be a 4-line letter, Madam Speaker, or less. That's all I want. And everything is activated. We just recently, in collaboration with PALS and others, sent a child to the Cayman Islands to receive cardiac surgery. And so the mother would have been in communication with me, and I wish that little child well. Again, that mother did not need to have a sponsor sheet, Madam Speaker. And so all children are protected, irrespective here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Because not everybody have health insurance. And we are determined that the mothers who are pregnant should have a chance, and children should have a chance, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, through the Prime Minister's Gala, our government has committed to donate $15,000 to each breast cancer organization in the Federation. So I will make the presentation very soon. Each will get $15,000, Madam Speaker. So the gala, the Prime Minister's Gala, is not just for fun and frolic. Part of it is to have fun and socialize. But while you are doing all of that, you are raising money in this federation to help people who need help and people who may not have health insurance. So each of them, Madam Speaker, will receive $15,000. So if there are women who need breast cancer care and the bills are too high, they normally go to these organizations. And I want to say that the Prime Minister's Gala is now dedicated to health care. Last year, it was the Children's Medical Fund. This year, it was breast cancer. The year before, last year. No, this year, because it's the first. Yeah, January. And next year, Madam Speaker, it is to do it for men's health. Because our men, we did it for children. Women, we have to do it for our men as well. Because a lot of our men are coming down with prostate cancer, and sometimes they need the support. And so I want to trigger that a prostate cancer support group be started in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm going to put the first into it. I want to declare that. I am going to put the first $5,000 of my personal money into a prostate cancer fund for our men here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So if there are men out there who have been thinking about the idea, contact me at the Prime Minister's office and let us get it going. And I will seed the first $5,000 because I'm seeing too many men who are coming down with prostate cancer and who should be living longer, Madam Speaker. So I'm going to seed the first $5,000 of my personal money. A lot of times we see children's fund, women fund this. We need men's fund so we can take care of the whole family. Men, women, and children. So, Madam Speaker, we are on the right track. So $15,000 each, and this can pay for a lot of mammograms and help with chemotherapy and radiation and so forth. And I want to encourage the breast cancer organizations to really continue to support our women here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we will not leave our men behind. Madam Speaker, from infrastructure development, this remains a major pillar of our health transformation agenda. The MRI facility is nearing completion, bringing advanced diagnostic capacity directly to our shores and reducing the need for costly overseas referrals. This is a major step forward in modernizing our tertiary care services. Madam Speaker, people are saying that the building may have taken long. It is a specialized building. Nobody in St. Kitts and Nevis has ever built a building to the specifications that are required for you to have an advanced MRI machine. So we had to bring in the consultants from overseas. All the time they have to be coming in because a little inch off on the floor is a big thing when you have an MRI machine. The magnetic field around the building, you have to test that because obviously the MRI, well I wouldn't say obviously, the MRI is a big magnet that is basically spinning to create images that you can see. So you have to make sure that the magnetic field around the facility is such that it does not interfere with the MRI. The walls have to be of a certain thickness. The roof height has to be of a certain height. And the floors, as I mentioned, the walls, the viewing center, all of these things, Madam Speaker, they have to be very, very specific. But I can say we are 90% complete. And I think by the 19th of the 19th of this month, I think we will be 98% complete and ready to receive the MRI. And we intend to have the MRI before the first half of this year. Once our people have learned how to install these very advanced pieces of medical equipment, it will make it much easier going forward, Madam Speaker. And this MRI can facilitate all sizes, our smaller people and our larger citizens as well. No one should be discriminated against, Madam Speaker, because of their physical size. Presently, the MRI that is here and is doing very well, but it can only hold up to a certain size. And if you have a citizen of a certain size, that citizen as well deserves medical care. We don't judge people in medicine, Madam Speaker. We provide the care and give empathetic advice. That is what we do. So it's coming along. At the JNF Hospital, Madam Speaker, significant preparatory work undertaken. We are transforming the electrical upgrade, and we're also doing water upgrade as well, Madam Speaker. The Bastia Health Center, I want to report, will undergo significant refurbishment this year. And the member from number 2, where the health center is located, has already been contacted by the ministry, as the ministry is now going to move into that constituency. And Bastia Health Center has not been touched for many years, Madam Speaker. Many, many years. But we are determined that this year, member from number 2, that we will resolve the matter of Bastia Health Center. And so we are very proud of that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with respect to human resource in health, the Ghanaian nurses, they're here, and they have begun to work. Imagine they were asking, why am I going to Africa? Madam Speaker, you have to diversify. We went to Africa to discuss these matters. We are seeing the fruits of them. They have already started to work. The first place in the Caribbean where these nurses have started to work is in St. Kitts and Nevis. We also have Nigerian nurses and doctors. We know Dr. Udo and we know Dr. Danton, who came here from Nigeria, well-known doctors here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We now have multiple healthcare professionals from Nigeria, as well as Ghana, here in St. Kitts and Nevis, who are really helping us to advance our healthcare delivery. So we have from Cuba, we have from Philippines, we have now from Africa. This is the reason for traveling to Africa. Ghana has a surplus of healthcare professionals. We have a dearth of healthcare professionals here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's a good transfer from Western Africa to the Caribbean of having highly skilled healthcare workers to deliver healthcare to our people. Madam Speaker, this is why you travel. What if we were just depending on one region? We would have been in a serious problem at this particular point with lack of nurses, a lack of doctors, and that would result in the bad health outcome of our people. Madam Speaker, so if anybody question why I would have been going to Africa, these are the reasons why I'm going to Africa, and this is just one such reason. Madam Speaker, we are also preparing to sign an agreement for the implementation of a modern electronic health record system. We intend to sign this in the next few weeks, and I'm happy to say that it is a local company. I wouldn't call the company's name at this time to prejudice anything, but we'll be very proud when we see who would have won the bid for implementation, building and implementation of the digital or the electronic health record system. For the first time, Madam Speaker, we'll have it here on St. Kitts, a full electronic health record system. You know what that means? You will have your health record on your phone, Madam Speaker. So if you travel and you have to go to the doctor, you can pull up your health record on your phone. And you show the doctor what medications you are taking, how were you treated. This is modern medicine, Madam Speaker, and we're going to start implementing this, and we will be very proud with the company that would have won. Madam Speaker, with respect to the card in home will undergo significant improvement this year. We are partnering with Ross University and others. We have dedicated the skilled staff at His Majesty's Prison to be the contractors on the card in home. We have very skilled people, Madam Speaker, at His Majesty's Prison, and they will be dedicated to renovate and refurbish the card in home. Madam Speaker, I think this will be a very useful time of their skill and their time to advance this home where our most vulnerable people go. But even though they are the most vulnerable, they should have a proper place to be in, Madam Speaker. And we all know the state of the card in home, and we know it is in dire need of refurbishment. And this year, we will see that refurbishment taking place, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and therefore, I want to say that with this declining overall mortality, that means less people dying, expanded pediatric support to Children's Medical Fund, strengthened cancer advocacy, Madam Speaker, through the breast cancer society, organizations, modern diagnostic services nearing completion, MRI specifically, infrastructure upgrades underway, water and electricity, international partnerships enhancing the staffing, as I mentioned, from West Africa, and digital system advancement. I spoke of the electronic health record, and elderly care expansion with respect to improvement, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is not accidental progress. It is the result of deliberate policy, strategic investment, and the tireless dedication of healthcare professionals across St. Kitts and Nevis. And so I want to thank them very, very much. So, Madam Speaker, that's it for health. I now want to touch on CARICOM. Madam Speaker, I took over the chairmanship of CARICOM on the 1st of January 2026 under circumstances that were both solemn and historic. Madam Speaker, I assumed the chairmanship. However, it must be recognized that it was also a very challenging time. I started where CARICOM, of course, had to respond to a significant geopolitical event, and I even missed my own gala, which is the Prime Minister's gala, to attend to it. Let me say, Madam Speaker, I am not the Prime Minister of CARICOM. I am not the President of CARICOM. I am not the Governor of CARICOM. What the Chairman does is seek to coordinate consensus on critical matters across CARICOM. So whatever comes out of CARICOM is a matter of consensus and discussion among all members of CARICOM. So I want to put that fair and square on the table so that people don't think that I am the author of any statements that come out, and they understand how CARICOM works. But since assuming chair, Madam Speaker, I've traveled across several member states, and I've been criticized for it. Everybody knows that CARICOM is at the crossroads to some extent. There is no real risk for it to disintegrate, but it's at the crossroads, and it requires a different type of approach. We have seen public discussions that were not the most wholesome between members of CARICOM, and something that you want to be kept behind closed doors. Have the hard discussion behind closed doors and come out with agreed positions. However, those discussions became public and to some extent brought questions about CARICOM, its viability, and the commitment of leaders. And so, Madam Speaker, at this time, as the chair, I deem it very critical that I visit each of these members, sit with them, eyeball to eyeball, and have the hard conversations, Madam Speaker. I've been criticized for traveling. I'm not traveling by any private jet. I travel by the RSS. It's not the most modern plane, but it's a reliable plane. That is how I travel from country to country across the region. They should know. So RSS is a regional security system. You see the planes come here from time to time. These are very simple planes with simple seating. They don't even have bathrooms on board, Madam Speaker. So this is no luxury at all. But I'm very grateful because they are very reliable and they have excellent pilots. So I'm not calling down the planes in any way because they help us tremendously. But I don't want people to think that when I travel from these countries, I'm traveling in luxury at all. Because that is what some people want to spread across our federation. And Madam Speaker, I've met with a number of leaders thus far, 5 of them, and I am very, very encouraged by their responses. I'm very, very encouraged by their commitment to CARICOM and understanding how important CARICOM is. Let me say how important CARICOM is, because without CARICOM, if CARICOM were to disintegrate right now, St. Kitts will end up in a very bad position. Almost any country in CARICOM would. Very, very bad. Why? Our regional institutions stand as pillars. Listen to the first one. The University of the West Indies continues to shape Caribbean intellect and leadership. That's CARICOM. Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, Madam Speaker. This agency helps us to prepare for hurricanes, help us to deal with hurricanes and after hurricanes, and disasters in general. St. Kitts alone cannot do it. If we were to bear the cost of preparation for any type of disaster by ourselves, Madam Speaker, we will not survive one hurricane season properly because it will call for so much from our own budget. But by having SEDIMA, which is a CARICOM organ, that helps us to prepare, Madam Speaker. And if we are hit, they are there. And during, they are there. So I want our people to know that CARICOM is important to us. We cannot do without these vital services. Can you imagine if University of the West Indies is no longer there? How many of us in here went to University of the West Indies? A lot of us. Imagine you don't have that anymore. Imagine if you don't have SEDIMA anymore. Where are we going to get the money from, Madam Speaker, to train people and prepare? We don't have enough money in our budget. We would not have enough money in our budget. Madam Speaker, Caribbean Examinations Council, CSEC, is a creature of CARICOM. St. Kitts and Nevis cannot carry a whole examination board. We might have to go back to England, and we have passed that. So without CARICOM, we will not have this. I want our people to see that CARICOM is also responsible for the very exams that we use to show how qualified our people are and to get advancement, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, or CARPHA, coordinates public health surveillance and response, protecting our populations from regional and global health threats. St. Kitts alone cannot do that, Madam Speaker. If St. Kitts alone had to respond to any health threats, we will not have enough budget to do that. But of course, CARICOM, because we are integrated and coordinated, the cost per country is significantly lower than if each country had to do it. 1, we wouldn't have the human resource. 2, we wouldn't have the financial resource. 3, we wouldn't have the infrastructure necessary for these type of surveillances. Again, Madam Speaker, our very health, the protection that we enjoy from diseases is because you have an organization such as CARPHA that is ensuring that that happens. And Madam Speaker, I wanted to mention those because it is critically important that people understand how important CARICOM is. If CARICOM were to disintegrate today, St. Kitts, I can say, to survive on its own, it cannot survive on its own. Let me put it that way. Because even when you look at other regional institutions, maybe not as far as CARICOM, and let's look at the Central Bank, for example, which is part of the integration movement, but at the OECS level. Can we create our own dollar? No, Madam Speaker. We can't. So these organizations are critically important for us to survive as a sovereign country. That is why we said we have what you call collective sovereignty. Within the organization, each of us is sovereign. However, our sovereignty depends on the collective. And without the collective, none of us can be truly sovereign. So CARICOM is almost like a replacement to our colonial master. The difference is we are in charge. We benefit from all of these things We are in charge. We set the agenda. Nobody sets the agenda for us. And so, Madam Speaker, I want us to see how important CARICOM is and not to take it for granted. Our very life depends on the work of CARICOM, Madam Speaker, whether in healthcare, education, and so forth. And so, Madam Speaker, this year we'll be hosting CARICOM, the 50th regular meeting of CARICOM from the 24th to 27th of this month. And we are expecting a number of heads to come into St. Kitts and Nevis, and therefore I want to ask us as a country, all of us together, to really host CARICOM as a nation. Madam Speaker, I want to speak a little bit on the matter of the Buckley's uprising because it's in the public at this time. The events at Buckley's estate were not isolated acts of unrest. They were the expression of deep social and economic grievances borne by working men and women who had endured harsh conditions and systemic inequities. When they rose in protest, they did so seeking fairness and human dignity. In that confrontation, lives were lost. Madam Speaker, the historical record identifies 3 workers who were killed, Madam Speaker. Mr. Samuel, Mr. Allen, and Archibald. God bless their souls forever, Madam Speaker. These names must never be forgotten. They are etched into the moral foundation of our nation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, their sacrifice did not end in silence. It reverberated across our island and a wider Caribbean. The uprising ushered in a new era of labor consciousness and collective organization, helping to lay the groundwork for the development of the trade union movement in St. Kitts and Nevis. Madam Speaker, across the English-speaking Caribbean, we have one of the oldest trade union movement. And out of that movement, we know that we have the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, which is the oldest political party in the English-speaking Caribbean, which started in 1932. The uprising would have been in 1935. Unions started in 1940 because they were illegal up until that point. So 1932, the Workers' League started with Mr. Manchester, who was a plantation owner but sided with workers. God bless him. Then in 1935, you had the Buckley's uprising. And by 1940, unions became legal. And the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union existed from 1940 up to present, making it one of the oldest, and definitely the oldest political party from 1932 up to present, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, they gave their lives. We here celebrate lives of people from all over the world who gave their lives. We say, look at Mahatma Gandhi, and God bless him. And he should be honored by his people because he gave his life for what he believed in. You go to the United States of America, and they tell you about Emmett Till, a young boy who was accused of calling out to a white woman and he was lynched. And they remember him. Or the 3 little girls who suffered and died because of a bombing in the southern part of the United States. And we remember them as part of the history. They honor them. But Madam Speaker, here at home, we don't have to look to the United States, though we respect that sacrifice and hold it in high esteem because it should be. We don't have to look to South America and Central America to see these people. We don't have to look to Africa and Asia to see those who sacrificed for the greater good. Right here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we had those who gave their lives, Madam Speaker, so that we can have a better existence today. And so, Madam Speaker, the national holiday is not merely symbolic. It is a declaration that the struggles of ordinary people matter. It is a recognition that the rights and protections many now enjoy were forged through sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice, the giving of life. It ensures that future generations will learn not only the date, but the meaning of Buckley's. In this regard, Madam Speaker, I wish to publicly thank the Rastafari community whose unwavering commitment over the years has helped to keep the memory of the Buckley's uprising alive through annual observances and education. Long before formal recognition, Madam Speaker, they ensured that the story was told, the matters were honored, and the spirit of resistance and justice remained part of our national consciousness. The nation owes them gratitude. And so on behalf of St. Kitts and Nevis, I extend our sincerest gratitude to the Rastafari community for making sure that we never ever forget the three who made the ultimate sacrifice in giving their lives for betterment of our people that had an impact locally, regionally, and I dare say, Madam Speaker, internationally. So the 28th day of January will be a day when all of our matters will always be remembered for giving the ultimate sacrifice, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, at this time, if it's permitted, I would have to look at the rules that we hold a minute silence for those who have mentioned, who made the ultimate sacrifice, Madam Speaker. If it is allowed, I would like it to start now. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and to all in this honorable House. Was I speaking without the mic? No. Oh, okay. Just making sure. Thank you. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that that was very pleasing to me to have had the opportunity to have this National Assembly formally and officially recognize the ultimate sacrifice made by the three men mentioned. And their names should be etched in the minutes of this House, and they should never, ever be forgotten, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I will now move to the last thing, which is going to be some significant news with respect to the Gulf Coast and Frigate Bay. And so I would make this statement, Madam Speaker. Around 55 years ago, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, led by our first national hero, Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, our premier at the time, assigned His Excellency Honorable Caleb Azariah Paul Southwell, another national hero, to negotiate the purchase of lands at Frigate Bay from a private land-owning family for the long-term benefit of the people of this federation. Madam Speaker, those two celebrated leaders knew that the key to developing a prosperous nation is empowering as many of its people as possible. This was not a surprising policy decision because the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party motto has always been for the good that we can do. And Madam Speaker, as a result, ordinary people were able to enjoy the beaches at Frigate Bay, and the gate that kept ordinary people out was removed. Madam Speaker, those leaders of our nation had selflessness in their DNA, foresight, and vision. Look at Frigate Bay today. The hundreds of Kittitians and Nevisians who bought land and now own homes there have gained generational wealth through that investment. Hundreds more Kittitians and Nevisians have opened businesses and gained employment in the various businesses spread throughout Frigate Bay. It has been an undisputable grand success story for our federation. Madam Speaker, around 25 years ago, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, led by our senior minister and former Prime Minister, the member for St. Christopher No. 6, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Llewellyn Douglas, then built on the vision of Bratcher and Southwell by negotiating and overseeing the expansive construction of the modern world-class 18-hole Frigate Bay Golf Club and the St. Kitts Marriott Resort in partnership with the Royal St. Kitts Group of Companies. Hundreds of permanent jobs were created and thousands more tourists were attracted to our shores, driving wealth creation, employment opportunities, and prosperity in Frigate Bay and beyond. Today, Madam Speaker, I am proud to carry, this cabinet, we are proud to carry on this great St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party legacy of empowerment of the people of this federation. This is why it brings me great pleasure to announce that after lengthy, tough negotiation, your government has secured, by way of written agreements, signed, sealed, and delivered, full state ownership of the lands on which the Frigate Bay Golf Course is constructed. Full state ownership of all shares in Frigate Bay Golf Course Limited, the company which manages and operates the golf course. And the full state ownership of an additional 77.23 acres of land in the Frigate Bay area. Madam Speaker, we now own that. 16.10 acres, which comprises the northern holes of the golf course adjacent to Koi Resort, 13.16 acres of prime vacant land to the west of the golf course overlooking Half Moon Bay, and 47.97 acres of prime land between the Frigate Bay Road, Earl Mons, Bird Rock, and the heights of Frigate Bay, Madam Speaker. 77.23 acres of land in addition to the golf course. That is now fully owned, Madam Speaker, by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. Tremendous, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the first 16.10 acre parcel ensures that the state now, for the first time in our history, owns the entire Frigate Bay Golf Course lands and its operating company. First time in our history, Madam Speaker. This is completing the dream that His Excellency Robert Bratcher and Southwell had, strengthened by our senior minister and former Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, and now a next Labour Prime Minister, a real Labour Prime Minister, making sure that it is completed. Frigate Bay, which once locked out our people, is now totally owned by our people, Madam Speaker, in this Black History Month. Madam Speaker, the second 13.16 acre parcel grants Frigate Bay Development Corporation a new mandate, given that it has almost fully sold all of its development land. The corporation can now install the necessary infrastructure to develop this new land, which will be ideal for luxury villas and possibly another high-end hotel due to its superb views of the Frigate Bay Golf Course and Half Moon Bay. But Madam Speaker, and last but not least, the third 47.97 acres of prime land will be subdivided into large residential and commercial lots to ensure that our people, Madam Speaker, the young people of this country as well, Madam Speaker, can have a chance to gain generational wealth through land ownership and commercial enterprise right in Frigate Bay, Madam Speaker. It means that a person living in St. Paul's can now work to buy some land in Frigate Bay. It is no longer just exclusive to certain people. Our people now have access to land in Frigate Bay, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this land will be subdivided into commercial areas, large residential lots with amazing views over Bastia, some perched above Frigate Bay and others with panoramic views of the Royal Bastia Valley National Park. Madam Speaker, I speak with pride because I think about that young man from Challengers who could now buy a piece if he work hard, save his money and invest well. No longer would our people be shut out, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, our young people will be prioritized for land ownership in this prime real estate area. So if you have a few extra dollars, you too can live in Frigate, Madam Speaker, as anybody else in this country. I therefore encourage our young, ambitious, educated future leaders of this federation to organize their finances to take advantage of this opportunity to own land, which could start their journey to financial freedom and generational wealth. I am saying to our people, Madam Speaker, do not be afraid to buy land in Frigate Bay. You can own it too. Doesn't have to be one type of people coming from one type of area. You should be able to invest in that. Why shouldn't a child from Old Road be able to drive over to his house in Frigate Bay? Why shouldn't he be able to aspire to that? That is what our founding fathers in this country wanted, and we are completing it today, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, now that we have secured the land, I give you my word that we will negotiate with local financial institutions, as we have started, to ensure that ownership of this 47.7 acres of prime land is within our people's reach. Madam Speaker, we negotiated hard to secure ownership of this land for the empowerment of our people, especially our young people, and our young people who are aspiring to build wealth. They too can live in luxury. Why not? It is not bad from them to do, Madam Speaker. And for the benefit of this generation, so we're not just talking future, this generation and generations to come. Madam Speaker, I am reminded of the famous Greek proverb that says, a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. Madam Speaker, I am very sure that when our national heroes fought for that Frigate Bay land for our people, they were very sure that they will never own a piece of land in Frigate Bay. However, they were, of course, thinking about future generations when the future generations who were barred from Frigate Bay would be able to own land. And I say today that I'm happy to be part of that vision to ensure that Frigate Bay become accessible to the ordinary people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Madam Speaker, you may be wondering how much the government spent to secure almost 80 acres. 80 acres of land, that's a lot of land in one of the prime areas in St. Kitts and Nevis. And I will tell you how we did it. The answer is this. We did not spend a cent. 80 acres, 80 acres, now belong to us. This government negotiated with the Royal St. Kitts group of companies, an existing public benefactor, to issue public benefit units under the Citizenship by Investment Program. Madam Speaker, this is what our program should be used for. To empower our people, Madam Speaker. This is not a prison project, Madam Speaker. This is real land in the best place in St. Kitts for people to own, ordinary people to have access to. And Madam Speaker, we have leveraged this in exchange for the land and the shares of Frigate Bay Golf Limited. We own everything, including the dome and the golf house. Everything belongs to us, Madam Speaker. And the additional lots on the golf course. It's all ours. That is what our founding fathers envisioned. Get all if you can get all. So, Madam Speaker, I want to break down this so that there are no misconceptions. And in the interest of total transparency, Madam Speaker, 725 public benefit units have been assigned, and I will say how that works. And this was assigned to the group as compensation for the land and share purchase. So we bought out everything. Not 5,500, Madam Speaker, for a prison. 5,500 units were used for a prison. But today, only 725 being used to get 80 acres of prime land, some of the best land in St. Kitts and Nevis, so that our people can have access. That is why we say that was a waste, Madam Speaker, and I will forever condemn it, because with 725, we were able to get 80 acres of prime land here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Madam Speaker, that 5,500 was under the past government was ill-advised for a prison, Madam Speaker. Imagine 725 and you got 80 acres of prime land and 5,500 for a prison. The maths is not matting. The maths is not matting. Mathsing. The maths is not mathsing. Mathsing. All right then. Madam Speaker, 725 units for 80 acres of prime land and 5,500 for a prison. The maths is not mathsing. This can't make sense, Madam Speaker. If you had used those 5,500 units well, you know what you could have done with that? Prime land, you could have built a hotel, villas, a hospital, MRI machine, homes, all of that you could have had with 5,500. And that has nothing to do with the $4.2 billion that they tell the country they had in 7 years. An economic travesty. Waste of the highest order, Madam Speaker. With 725 units, we now own 80 acres of prime land. Madam Speaker, I want to touch on, because we are talking about the company that is involved with Marriott, to now move on that US $10 million loan that they're speaking about. Because, Madam Speaker, how do they know about it? It is because it's in the audit book. We don't hide things. They're for public consumption. But let me break down how that works. After COVID, during COVID, Marriott Hotel, which is the largest hotel in St. Kitts and Nevis, went through tremendous pain. Imagine not making money for almost 3 years. In addition to that, we know that the country was the last in the OECS to open up. So the recovery in tourism was significantly delayed. The Minister for Tourism is here, and she knows the pain that we went through to restart the tourism sector, as trust had been lost. Madam Speaker, that decision to keep the country locked down excessively hurt the Marriott Hotel. Hundreds of jobs were on the line after COVID. Marriott was about to close down, Madam Speaker. How is it I, as the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister, this cabinet, would have allowed the largest hotel in this country to close with hundreds of jobs lost? That would have devastated families, Madam Speaker. The majority of workers at Marriott are from St. Kitts and Nevis. It would have hurt the economy. It would have thrown us into a recession, Madam Speaker. How could have I sat in my chair and allowed this country to go through such a serious recession with the loss of hundreds of jobs? Something had to be done, Madam Speaker, and we inflicted the pain on ourselves because the previous administration, for political reasons, refused to open the country, and we opened the country Sunday night, August 7th, 2022. It didn't give the hotels enough time to take advantage of that season because the bookings normally come in advance. The tourists went down to St. Lucia and St. Vincent and Dominica. St. Martin did not come to St. Kitts and Nevis because we were shut down when all of them were open, Madam Speaker, inflicting more pain on big hotels, in this case in St. Kitts and Nevis, the Marriott. Madam Speaker, when the Marriott came and they said, look, you know that we suffered during COVID. This excess time of locking down when it was not necessary hurt us. How are we going to keep the hotel open? We can't. We might have to close the doors. We look at their books, Madam Speaker. The financial books were in shambles. And we're on the precipice of the shutdown of the largest hotel. And we know who would have been hurt. Madam Speaker, we became creative. while they were hurting and they could not do anymore, we said, we will not give Marriott just free money like that. Because there would have been a strong argument for the government to bail out Marriott. Because guess where the money went? The money went to the workers in Marriott. And who are the workers? The hundreds of workers. Our people. The money went to them. We could have just said to them, let us just pay all your workers Marriott for the next 6 months. And that, I think, could have been understood by the population because the money going to the workers. But we gave them the money to get the money to the workers with a condition that you have to pay back every cent of the money. So it was not no free money. I know in the past the decision was made to pay the workers, and that was a proper decision at that time. But looking at that and now, we say, how can we get the money to the workers, save Marriott, and the government does not lose 1 cent? Not only save Marriott, save the country. Because if Marriott were to go under, especially after COVID when the economy was so fragile, he could have dragged down the whole thing, Madam Speaker. And we decided that that could not be. And so we made the decision and negotiated with Marriott US $10 million, which is 27 million EC dollars, Madam Speaker, right in the audit book. Madam Speaker, this money went to the workers, hundreds of workers, to keep them employed, to keep Marriott afloat. And while we were rebuilding the economy based on tourism, Marriott, of course, is a fundamental part of that. Madam Speaker, I am proud to say that all of that money will be repaid in 2026. Madam Speaker, with already US $3.1 million having already been paid. But Madam Speaker, let us see how we do it. Again, this is where we use our CBI program. We gave them the units. They sold the units to pay the workers. And guess all the rest of the profit, guess who it came to? Us. So the government made a direct profit from the deal with Marriott. Because what we did, we gave Marriott the units from the CBI for them to sell. Madam Speaker, look at what happens here now. The return for the state is estimated to be $2.5 million on top of the repayment of the US $10 million principal. That in effect is a return of 25% interest. Madam Speaker, all the workers were kept on. Marriott was saved. The government get back $12.5 million for lending out $10 million. Madam Speaker, think about that. That's innovation. That's creativity. The government got a profit because any unit they sell, we got the profit, not Marriott. Workers save, Marriott save, the economy save. That's a win, 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 win situation. So let's put things into context here, Madam Speaker. And as a result, I want to thank the Minister of Tourism who is here, who is working tirelessly hard to grow the tourism sector, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, I am proud to say that this has really helped us tremendously. And the Board of Directors, let me thank them, Madam Speaker. The Board of Directors, headed by Mr. Bobby Morris, they were part and parcel of this, of what took place over there, saving the Marriott and hundreds of jobs, saving the tourism sector, saving the corporation, helping to negotiate, getting all of that land, that prime land that our people now can buy and enjoy. Madam Speaker, that's what you call a win-win-win. Now, because Frigate Bay Corporation now has all of this land, they now can go into selling this land, and Frigate Bay Corporation can now be viable, go into the green, and no longer require subventions from the government. Madam Speaker, win, 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 win all the way. Can you imagine if I had access to 5,500 units that a prison that was used to build a prison? Madam Speaker, you got hospital, you got school, you got water, you got electricity, you got Frigate Bay land, Because with only 725 units, we got 80 acres of land, Madam Speaker. And with just a few units, we made a profit of $2.5 million US by saving Marriott the jobs, the workers, and the tourism industry here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Cabinet for their tremendous hard work on this one. Thank the Philip Bay Corporation. But I also want to thank those on the Marriott side, Madam Speaker, because they negotiated in good faith. They recognize how important this land is to our people. And they negotiated so that our people can finally own all of the land over there. And then we can decide how we are going to develop it. No longer is it just exclusive for foreigners, but if it's also our people who can enjoy the exclusivity if they so wish. Our people must be able to enjoy St. Kitts and Nevis. And so I really want to thank the Cabinet again, the Minister, the Board, and all those who are involved to ensure that the Marriott and Frigate Bay and the whole tourism sector is set on a new paradigm. So, Madam Speaker, I'll wrap up by quickly saying two major announcements today, I would say. One is what we did to save Marriott, and secondly, acquiring that 80 acres of prime land for our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We saved the corporation as well. And Madam Speaker, we made sure that the names of those who gave their lives during the Buckley's uprising, that their names would be recorded in the minutes of this honorable house, and their names must never ever be forgotten. And with that, Madam Speaker, may it please you.
Thank you to the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 8. Is there another presenter? Is there another statement? Sorry. I recognize the Honourable Senator, Dr. Clark.
Happy New Year, Madam Speaker. And of course, with your leave, I'd like to present very briefly on this section of the agenda, statement from the Ministry of Sustainable Development and Environment, two ministries which I have the privilege of managing and leading. From the Ministry of Sustainable Development, I'm providing a brief update on four important areas. One, our Agriculture Sustainable Land Transition Program, vending in urban Bastille, and of course, some updates on access to land. The Agriculture Sustainable Land Transition Program is well on its way. Last year in this honorable house, I provided an update on the current challenge that both ministries are facing as it relates to infringement of farmers on lands designated for residential and commercial construction, and as well as infringement of housing development on lands which are dedicated to agricultural production. The challenging areas were identified: Racecourse in Newton Ground, Cabbage Tree in Keyon, and Lemon Hill in the Molyneux area. So far, we have been able to successfully transition the farmers from the Racecourse area to facilitate the construction of NHC homes in Newton Ground. And I want to thank the National Housing Corporation for the construction in that constituency and for their patience and partnership with the Ministry of Sustainable Development. We're now working jointly with the task force that we established between both the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Sustainable Development to relocate the farmers in Lemon Hill and Cabbage Tree, two farmers in particular. While we recognize the importance of agricultural production for food security and nutrition security, we are also obligated to provide shelter and housing. We all recall from our very early days in high school and our first geography lessons, and I have this vivid memory from my 7 years of teaching geography at the Keyon High School. Best time ever. except now serving the people of St. Kitts and Nevis in this cabinet, of course. And one of the first questions you discuss in geography under sustainable development is, what are the primary requirements for humanity? Naturally, you need air, you need water to survive, but you also need food, because you must eat. You need shelter. And the government has a responsibility to ensure that you have food in your country, you can plant your own food, and that the people in the country have somewhere to live. And of course, you need water. It just so happens that in St. Kitts, in our 68 square miles, very limited land resources, we must make accommodation for food. We must protect lands which allow for water, and we must provide shelter. Our ministry has worked very closely with the Department of Agriculture to ensure the relocation and successful transition of farmers in Racecourse, and we're doing the same for these two farmers in Cabbage Tree and also at Lemon Hill. Farmers have already been informed by letter of the request for transition. They have been provided with alternative options by the Department of Agriculture, and in some cases, they have been compensated for the products that they have. They were also minded that farming, which is technically without permission on sustainable lands, required that no major farming could be done. No tree crops, no permanent crops. And so relocation in this case would require the removal of all crops to ensure that the persons who have been assigned lots in these areas can construct. We have in the Lemon Hill area one farmer's occupation, which is currently preventing 52 residential lots and 15 commercial lots. For Cabbage Tree Phase 3, 16 acres will allow for 364 residential lots. The ministry again uses this opportunity to thank the persons who have been waiting on approvals from the planning board, approvals from their various banking institutions, and also from the lawyers who have exercised patience, excessive patience in some cases, with the ministry as we work to relocate these farmers. We are mindful that everything that's done should be done with due process, it should be done properly, and it should be done to protect livelihoods and secure livelihoods. And as such, this begins again the first announcement of our second phase of communication around this issue. We will be on the radio, our task force will be engaging, and we will be continuing the conversations with these farmers so that the young persons and the families who are eager to construct in these areas can begin. As it relates to vending in urban Bastia, we have a growing challenge that we have to address, and it results in conversations with vendors, small vendors, the informal sector. The Ministry of Sustainable Development will be engaging all street vendors, and this is on 4th Street, Pond Road, Buckley's, and all over Bastia in particular, where we are recognizing an increase in the number of vendors who are establishing their operations, which you can once you have permissions from the Ministry of Health and the Department of Physical Planning. We have recognized that a number of vendors are established and they do not have these relevant permissions. I remind you that to sell food in St. Kitts and Nevis, you need a food handler's permit. Along the Pond Road, which we know as the Agro Strip, that area was established specifically for food and agro processors, farmers selling products or persons selling products on behalf of farmers, not for bars, not for clothes, not for shoes. And so our department will be engaging with the current vendors who have permission to set up in the Pond Road and reminding you of your obligations. One, Your contractual arrangement suggests that you must sell those specific products. 2, that you must pack up every evening and move on. You have your designated area, and you have the list of materials that are allowed for vending in that space. So if you're a bar, if you're a nightclub, or if you're anything else, we are going to have a conversation with you to find an appropriate location. Additionally, at the Buckley's parking lot, which is another space that's temporarily approved for vending, we also remind the persons who have established operations there that your permissions came with specific requirements, that you are mobile, that you are temporary, and that you clean up after yourselves. And we're recognizing that a few establishments are there without permission, selling food without food handlers permits, and permission from the Ministry of Health. Vending along the bypass in particular is also a growing challenge, not just for the Ministry of Health and Sustainable Development, but also for the traffic department. If you drive along the bypass heading from the Gillards area towards whether it's Springfield or Camps on a Friday, you can get a number of products from lobster to fish to shoes to banana, and it's fine. People sell. You pull off and you buy. What becomes a problem is the blocking of traffic for this activity, the increased propensity for accidents. But what's most problematic to the ministry is the businesses that have constructed actual buildings without permission. And we know you don't have permission because you will not be able to get electricity from Skelec to establish any property on the bypass, and you wouldn't be able to access water. And without these services, you cannot provide real services to the people of St. Kitts. And as such, we're also going to be engaging with these vendors to, 1, seek proper permission, or 2, find appropriate areas. Now, the Ministry of Sustainable Development is mindful that the increasing vending along the streets, especially along 4th Street, where it's becoming even more difficult to traverse as a pedestrian, means we have to make more commercial lands available. And we are doing so. We are actively working on 3 commercial areas for small businesses in Bastyr, which will allow you public access, foot traffic, vending to your heart's delight, but within reason, with permission and in order. So we are here about standards, about protecting not just your rights for livelihood, but also protecting the people who have to patronize your businesses. We look forward to the continued conversations with you. This evening, we will be in the Cunningham Commercial Development in Keyon, having a brief public session with occupants in that area as we work to revamp all of our commercial districts and ensure that persons who have lots have access to everything they need, and that the ministry can work with you to provide even more services. From the Ministry of Environment, I want to use this opportunity to speak about our Environment for Everyone campaign, which was recently launched. The ministry signed an MOU with several partners, and the Environment for Everyone campaign, we launched this in December with our Carnival Cleanup campaign, which was a hit. And we have recently signed an MOU with Health, the Department of Environment, Climate Action, the Department of Constituency Empowerment, Solid Waste Management Corporation, Public Infrastructure, Her Majesty's Prison, the Parks and Beaches Unit, Skelec, Traffic, STEP, Communications, etc. And this Environment for Everyone campaign comes from a recognition that our annual Christmas cleanup, which will still be ongoing, needed to expand, not just for the ministry with its partners to do the work with the community, but to give an opportunity to community groups, the private sector, civil society, individuals, and government agencies to engage in a year-long partnership for the environment. Our campaign is a rallying call to contribute to our national environmental wellness by becoming each of us our country's keeper through stewardship and a sense of shared responsibility for waste. Recognizing the powerful story that came out of the cleanup campaign in Constituency 2. The department, which is Constituency 2, led by the member for number 2, and her team with the Ministry of Tourism, we recognize that this was an excellent opportunity to extend this community-led approach to cleanup to the entire constituency, the entire nation. Our aim is to be as clean and as nice and as lovely as our dear sister Nevis, which has absolutely none of these challenges with garbage and illegal vending and illegal operations. It's something that a little bit, but we aspire to be like Nevis, where you cannot put down a building, next day it's gone. In St. Kitts, we need to culturally shift to really recognizing the importance of environmental health and of planning regulations. So once a program works, the Department of Constituency Empowerment and the Ministry of Environment partners and we extend. And so we want to thank the member for number 2 and her team's leadership for starting something that we can now extend to the entire nation. The truth is, Madam Speaker, that waste is everyone's business. We all generate waste. The challenge we face in St. Kitts is the indiscriminate disposal of waste along roadsides, verges, gut sides, and less trafficked routes. No one is responsible for the collection of waste between villages. So if you drive between St. Paul's and Newton Ground and there are bottles along the roadside, nobody's responsible for it. If you drive between Keys and Kenyon, Madam Speaker, you see the waste, nobody's responsible for it. However, we do have persons responsible for waste within the villages. On the streets, we have street sweepers, we have drain cleaners. We have persons who clean the verges, parks, and beaches. We do not have it on the gut side and the road side. And so who does this responsibility transition to? Who bears the cost of cleaning these areas? We believe that first we must start with a behavioral shift. You're driving, don't throw out your garbage. When you feel like you have a bag of garbage in your car from whatever event you came from, don't throw it on the roadside. There's nobody to collect it. Because we can assign persons and pay them to do this, but it would be an indefinite activity. Because people will keep throwing garbage as if it's the right thing to do. Oh, let me give them some work. That's not the attitude. We want us to stop disposing of waste. Now, if you go on Facebook and you follow Solid Waste Management Corporation or the Ministry of Environment, you will have the privilege of seeing a very delightful Valentine's video on waste. Now, you can be fined up to $20,000 EC for illegal dumping. For this Valentine's Day, we recommend that you use that money wisely, your main squeeze or your side squeeze or both of them. But don't be caught dumping illegally in private spaces when you go for a little drive on Valentine's night. Don't leave your waste. When you're cleaning up, wherever you're cleaning up, don't leave it. Don't drive down to Kenyon because you think nobody down there. You all saw that sting operation. Don't do it because we now have people who are mindful, they're with us. And we have up to 15 plus volunteer little wardens, and you don't know them, but they're out there and they're reporting you and they're sending you vehicle numbers and we are finding you and fining you. So happy Valentine's from the Ministry of Sustainable Development and Environment. Protect your environment, work with us, and of course, happy African and Black History Month. We celebrate because we are of African descent and we are important, and this is something we must honor, not just February, but all year long. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you to the Honourable Senator, Dr. Clark. Is there another statement? I see a bit of signaling, but I don't necessarily understand. I recognize the Honourable Attorney General.
May it please you, Madam Speaker, is it possible that we can have just a 5-minute adjournment to return? Sorry, a break, sorry.
It's fine. I can rise without the second. House will adjourn for 5 minutes. All right. House resumes. I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 1.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I decided to bring a brief statement as it relates to the STEP program, as I saw something out there in the social media, and as the minister with responsibility, I would not allow the social media to mislead the nation. As you're aware, Madam Speaker, probably since 2023, I have been speaking about the need for us to reform the STEP program in this honorable house. The original objective of the program was to facilitate employment of participants by providing them training to assist with achieving a long-term vision for development of our human capital and, of course, entrepreneurial skills. The plan, Madam Speaker, was to create more efficient system to assist a large number of unskilled persons to successfully integrate into the workforce. The program was also designed to assist trainees with the stipend and, of course, with the intention of them moving on. But, Madam Speaker, this program has stuck with us for starting in 2012, and sad to say that there are some persons who are still on the program assigned to a number of businesses. we were charged with the mandate of doing reform. We put a committee in place with a number of professionals who shared their report with Cabinet. And what we are doing, Madam Speaker, is ensuring that we bring the program to a sustainable level. Now, part of the reform, Madam Speaker, was to dialogue with the businesses that persons are assigned to. And we have been doing those consultations. Matter of fact, most of them were done last year. And they were all written to, indicating to them our intentions. Many of them came in, Madam Speaker, sat with the team at the office and agreed that something had to be done. We are grateful to those who, from the very onset, said, I can do 50-50. We are happy with that. There are some who brought in their statements and they were able to say to us, at this time, I can only do 60-40. I do 40, the program do the 60 as things get better. And we welcome those. And every business would have been communicated, or if they're not in the batch, all will be. And all we are asking, Madam Speaker, is for these businesses, after 10, 11 years, you have persons assigned to you. It is only fair for you to now consider, firstly, partnering with us, sharing, so that we'll be able to help more persons who are in need of that assistance, and eventually we move towards you fully employing these people. I am very mindful, Madam Speaker, of the society that we are living in. And very often when things are shown in the social media, we take it for gospel. But I am reminded this morning in Proverbs 12 and 27, whoever is slothful will not roast his game, but the diligent man will get precious wealth. Basically what the scripture is saying to us, Madam Speaker, it highlights the danger of laziness and the value of using resources wisely. We know the program has been a blessing to a number of persons, and we would want it to continue to be a blessing, but we cannot allow the program to continue the way it is going, otherwise we might end up in some serious problems. So when I see in the social media the letter that was sent to a particular business, giving the impression in the article that we are running home people going to be losing their jobs. Madam Speaker, absolutely rubbish. We are not firing anybody. All we are asking the businesses to do is to partner with the government so that we would be able to invest more in people. Because the reality is, Madam Speaker, many of us would have been talking about how the program and the persons not working and that kind of stuff. And now we are trying to reorganize, because the former administration promised reform, and of course that didn't happen. And we are doing that. You know what is telling, Madam Speaker? I spoke to a young lady a few months ago, and she was talking to me about having to write a recommendation for someone to get a job. And she realized some time would have passed, and she didn't hear anything from the individual about the employment. And she called the person to say, well, you didn't tell me how you get you with the job. And sadly, the person said to her, because she called me very angry and said, we need to do something about this. Oh, I get on and the step, you know, and I only have to work an hour. Madam Speaker, we cannot continue to allow this. God is not pleased with that. And as the minister with responsibility for the program, I will be guided by him and my colleagues, and we are going to fix the program. We are not sending anybody home. And if businesses don't want workers, because really now, Madam Speaker, if you have someone in your business for 10 years and they're not a good worker, would you have them still around? And all we are saying is that the time has come to do this. What the article did for us is to cause persons to express themselves. And when you get a chance, Madam Speaker, you should try and look for it. Because the majority of the people, they are commenting on the fact that the program needs to end. People need to be paying for their people. If you're having your business run for so long and you can't pay a wage, it means that you need to reconsider the business that you're operating. And we have all of the resources in terms of helping these businesses, whether it is their business proposals or their marketing strategy. They can get that from the Honorable Samuel Duggins ministry. All we are saying, Madam Speaker, the time has come and we need greater partnership so that persons can now transition into these places of employment that they would have been there for quite a while. Every week, $1.5 million is being spent. $1.5 million of all of us money is being spent on the program just to pay wages. And Madam Speaker, in the interviews, persons were able to benefit up to $800,000 in certain businesses that the government would have spent on wages. I don't want to shock the parliament, but we must speak truth. Some was close to $1 million. So who can tell us that that business cannot take their workers? I don't think it is an unfair ask. And I am asking, I am pleading with our businesses to partner with the STEP program so that we can better help others who are also in need of that. To those businesses who are doing it, I commend you. I thank you. And as we continue to dialogue with the others, I would only imagine that they too will be jumping on board. Madam Speaker, the country can be assured that no one will be sent home. And any business who choose not to take the workers, government will repurpose them because we are paying for them already. We are just asking for stronger partnership as we continue to serve and invest in our people. I thought, Madam Speaker, that it was important for me to raise it this morning in this honorable house, especially after a call I got before I left the house this morning, specifically to pray for me coming to Parliament. God is a God of timing. The time has come and we have started the work and we will finish it. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you to the honourable member for St. Christopher 1. Is there another statement? Next item.
Personal explanations. Motions relating to the business of the National Assembly and moved by a minister. Introduction of bills and first reading.
Oh, member, just a moment. I'm in receipt of the fiat, and so I thought it prudent to read it before we introduce the bill. So, whenever a bill speaks to public revenue, funds, and taxes, a fiat must be signed by the Governor General and the Minister of Finance. This is a requirement of the rules, particularly 25 and 54. The fiat reads as follows. To the Honourable Minister of Finance, in pursuance of Section 43 of the St. Christopher and Nevis Constitution Order 1983, and acting in accordance with the advice of the Cabinet, I recommend for the introduction into the National Assembly the following. 1. St. Kitts and Nevis Sovereign Wealth and Resilience Fund Bill 2026. Dated the 10th day of February 2026 by the Governor General, de Marcella Liebert. Signification of the Minister in respect of the above matter, according to Standing Rules 25 and 54. To the Honourable Speaker, I signify that Her Excellency the Governor General, in acting accordance with the advice of the Cabinet and in pursuance of the relevant provisions of the Constitution, recommends the introduction, and it was signed by the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew, dated the 11th day of February 2026. Honourable Member, St. Christopher 8. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With your leave, I rise to lay before this honourable House and introduce a bill shortly entitled St. Kitts and Nevis Sovereign Wealth and Resilience Fund Bill 2026. St. Kitts and Nevis Sovereign Wealth and Resilience Fund Bill 2026. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Seconder, I recognize the honourable member for St.
Madam
Christopher
Speaker, I
1.
rise to second the motion before this honorable House.
The question is that the bill shortly entitled St. Kitts and Nevis Sovereign Wealth and Resilience Fund Bill 2026 be read a first time. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
A bill to provide for the establishment of the St. Kitts and Nevis Sovereign Wealth and Resilience Fund and its objects, management and control, to provide for the board of the St. Kitts and Nevis Sovereign Wealth and Resilience Fund and its functions, and to provide for the appointment of the chairperson, to provide for the allocation and disbursement of money into and from the fund, and to provide for matters incidental to or connected with the foregoing, otherwise known as the St. Kitts and Nevis Sovereign Wealth and Resilient Fund Bill 2026.
The bill shortly entitled St. Kitts and Nevis Sovereign Wealth and Resilience Fund Bill 2026 has been read a first time. Next item.
Motions, resolutions, adjournment.
I recognize the honourable member for St. Christopher 8.
Madam Speaker, with your leave, I rise once again to really take this opportunity to extend. Just 1 second, Madam Speaker. My deepest condolences to the family and friends and the Nevis community. On the behalf of myself as Minister of Finance with responsibility for the National Bank Group of Companies, on the passing of Director Hunkins, who passed very, very recently. Madam Speaker, during a time as a director of the bank, she served with distinction and honor, serving the bank, the group of companies, serving her country. She will be deeply missed, and we will forever appreciate the tremendous contribution she made to national development through her directorship as a member of the board of the National Bank Group of Companies. May her soul rest in eternal peace. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you to the honourable member. Is there another intervention? I recognize the honourable member for Nevis 10.
Madam Speaker, on the adjournment, I would also like to take this opportunity from this side to extend heartfelt condolences to the family of the late Lorna Hunkins. She was a pillar of the Division Society in many regards, and we will certainly miss her. She would have contributed immensely to practically every aspect of society on the island of Nevis, and it was really very, very shocking when we got the news yesterday, and so we want to take this opportunity to extend heartfelt condolences, especially to her daughter, to her mother, and of course to the Hunkins family. It's a family that is very dear to the island of Nevis. So on behalf of all of us here on this side, we will also want to extend our condolences to the family of the late Lorna Hunkins, and may her soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you to the honourable member. Is there another? I recognize the honourable member for Nevis 11.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And of course, it would be remiss of me if I didn't stand at this time to also offer my condolences to the family of Miss Lorna Hunkins on her passing. Madam Speaker, many persons would have expressed their condolences and experiences that they would have had in terms of interaction with Miss Hunkins over the years. I would say, going back to the days, or school days, I must say, she was one class ahead of me at sixth form. And of course, I will say here and now that those days are unmatched in many ways. I don't think no other class or no other persons who would have attended sixth form since then can speak of the days we would have had and the class that we would have exhibited in terms of whether in academia or at the debating society and so forth. She was not on a debating team at that point in time, but of course she would have helped and assisted the debating society back then. And of course, after leaving school, she would have had her exploits in the banking arena and the financial sector, so to speak. She was a dear friend of many of us and also a colleague at the political, from the political standpoint in terms of being a member of our political party, the Concerned Citizens Movement. She was, upon her passing, or until her passing, the secretary of our party. And so she would have played her part in terms of advancing the cause of the concerned citizens movement over the years. Indeed, as I expressed yesterday, her passing was one which was unexpected, even though we knew she would have had her challenges, medical challenges. But of course, you still hope for the best and hope that she would have come through on the other side. That being said, Madam Speaker, she has certainly left a void in many ways, and so I do believe that Nevis, the Federation, will certainly miss her contribution in the financial sector. And so we want to say to the family that it is a difficult time for you, yes, as a family, but it is also equally a difficult time for us as a people who would have leaned on her in many ways and depended on her for many things. And so we want to say to her daughter, her mom, her aunts, and the entire Hunkins family there in Charlestown, that the Federation thank you for your contribution to this Federation over the years, and would want to thank Lorna as well for, well, she's not here to hear us, but we'll want to thank her anyway for her contribution to the development of the island of Nevis and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we just want to say, may her soul continue to rest in peace, and wish the family well, and pray that God will provide the strength at this the most difficult time for them to survive through this most unfortunate time. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you to the honourable member.
Madam Speaker, on the adjournment, I too would like to express my sympathy to a number of family, but first with my other colleagues, Ms. Hunkins from Nevis as well. And then I have the families of Wesley Galloway, who served as a civil servant for many, many years. You have from in the Taylor's area, Asher Eddy. Then you have Mr. Wilmot Brown, the famous pharmacist at City Drug Store. I express sympathies to his entire family. And most recently, we had Mario Hobson, known to us as Sam, my classmate. We lived on the same street. He passed on, and I express sympathies as well to my own family, the Handis family, on the passing of Ballage. He served in the Ministry of Education as a messenger and bus driver for many years with distinction. And I pray God's strength over them at this time. And next week, Madam Speaker, I mentioned it in the House, we are going to, in East Basse, have the renaming ceremonies of our community center and our health center. So I'm inviting the community out Tuesday morning to lend their support to two well-deserving persons, and the conference space in the community center, that too will be named after someone who would have put in a lot of work, not only in the community, but in this federation. So with that being said, Madam Speaker, can I move the motion now that, okay, may it please.
Just a brief note, honourable members. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for participating in the wearing of African garments in honor of Black History Month. This is a time of reflection, resilience, and remembrance. We honor the struggles, sacrifices, and triumphs of those who paved the way for us, and we recommit ourselves to the work of justice, equity, and progress of our people. May we continue to serve with courage, integrity, and purpose, building on the blocks that have been laid by our forefathers. We may now have motion. Thank you. I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Christopher.
I rise, Madam Speaker, moving the motion that this Honourable House be adjourned sine die.
Is there a second? I recognize the Honourable Attorney General.
May it please you, Madam Speaker, I second the motion.
The question is that this House stands adjourned sine die. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. House stands adjourned sine die.
Join us every Wednesday for In Focus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss